You don't have to stay there. How visualization can help you leave that job. This is for Black women, particularly Black women who are in toxic jobs. So, we're going to talk about ways that visualization can possibly help you. If you don't know me already, I'm Dr. Kamani. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been licensed for about 20 years now. I'm also a toxic job survivor, but more importantly, I'm a toxic job liberator for Black women. I'm also the co host with Marissa Price of the second annual Job Liberation Virtual Summit for Black women, which is coming up soon. Okay. So if you want to register for the summit, information is at the bottom of the screen. It's also in the description section. So I'm excited to have Winsome here with us today. So, Winsome, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And thank you, Dr. Kimani. It's an honor to be here. And first, let me say, I love the whole philosophy of lifting as we climb,
Thank
right?
you.
We do not have to get to the peak before reaching back for someone. We don't even have to have all the answers. We can share what we know. And it's like Marissa Price says in her beautiful book of affirmations, I can teach while I'm still learning, right? So we all know something that someone else doesn't know yet, and we can pass that along. And I heal survivors of trauma even as I am healing. So yeah, I hope to be lifting some sisters up this evening. But my name is Winsome Alexander. I'm a visualization guide and host of the Big Up Yourself show on YouTube. And shameless plug, please subscribe to the channel.
Yes.
Okay. My work supports childhood trauma survivors in reclaiming their original self, that sacred part of them that got separated through various traumas, conditioning, and societal limitations, almost like splitting, splitting in psychology. And Dr. Kimani can explain the psychology of splitting better than me. I just understand it in more of a spiritual context. So you could say I'm a sacred self-reclamation mentor. And it took me decades to become integrated with my sacredness. So I want to help others get there faster because life is moving fast and you need some things right now. You don't have decades to wait. The call is urgent.
True.
Yeah, I'm happy
True.
to be here. And I have a lot to say.
Yes. And I would even say, especially right now, with so much going on in the world right now, so much chaos and confusion, that we really need to be centered within ourselves and really explore our options. And just because you mentioned about splitting, I was thinking about ways that many times for us as Black women, that we feel split off from our true selves when we're in the workplace. Because as we're going in the workplace, we're in the workplace, we can feel that hostility around us. And
Yes.
people say, well, why do Black women have so many experiences of being in toxic work environments? I've met so many Black women and so many Black women come to my channel and they're like, oh my God, this is happening to me. It's
Yes.
racism and sexism in all these different environments. And that's often why we have challenges. And so the splitting for us in the workplace might look like masking. So as you come into the workplace, you're masking, right? Because you know they're coming for you. So you're looking around, you're trying to make sure you're going to be okay. Tell us a little bit before we go into the other questions. What can you tell us what you meant about splitting in terms of spiritually?
Well, okay, so we may not always be aware of the spiritual aspect of who we are. And so as we're going through life and we're being bombarded with all kinds of stressors and things, we can lose that part of ourselves, that sacred part of ourselves, the original you that was created for abundance and love and joy and all the great things. You lose that part of you through the challenges of life. So, for me, the splitting is like just losing your sacred spiritual self.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to talk about regaining that, coming closer to our spiritual truth. So because my channel talks a lot about Black women toxic jobs, I talk about other things too, but I talk about it so much because that's not only my experience. It's very therapeutic for me to talk about, even though I've resigned about 2.5 years ago. But what I've noticed is that there's so many Black women who are in a toxic work environment. And I would even say for Black women who are like federal workers, they've been laid off unexpectedly, that's traumatic. So a lot of trauma
Yes.
that we're experiencing in the workplace. So can
Mhm.
you share with us, Winsome, about maybe a traumatic or toxic work experience that you've had that you got to a point where you're like, this cannot be it. This
Oh,
cannot be what
oh my
I was
gosh.
on this
Oh
earth
my
to do. This
gosh.
cannot be it.
I have a big old story. I have a long old story. I have a lot to say, like I said. So,
Okay.
first of all, it was never my intention to have a job, right? So, at the back of my mind, I just always wanted to be in business for myself. The structure and routine and politics of a job has always felt like it was not for me. And
Mhm.
honestly, I've known for a long time that a job is a trigger for depression for
Mhm.
me, right? So every time I landed a job, I was immediately starting to look for a better one. And I was also,
Okay.
yes, I was also always looking for ways to own my own business. So no job was ever my forever job, right? But
Mhm.
I had reached a breaking point on the job that I had just before COVID. So when I got laid off in the time of COVID, I knew I couldn't go back to working like that again, right? Because
Mhm.
see, I'm a designer by an interior designer by trade, by practice, by education. So design is my background.
Mhm.
The thing is, as a designer, you're if you're not working for yourself, you're most likely working in retail, in furniture retail, right? And let
Mhm.
me tell you, the foolishness and drama that goes on in the world of furniture and decor is utter madness, okay? Nothing is as toxic as the retail job scene, and especially in furniture. So, first of all, the environment encourages cutthroat competition.
Mm.
If you're not vigilant, somebody will move in and take your customer. And the establishments tell you it's not your customer, it's their customer. So they actually encourage salespeople taking the other's customer. They're they don't care as long as somebody is closing the deal. And so most customers are not loyal either. So even though you work with them for hours,
Mhm.
and if they didn't buy that day, even if you tell them you're not working on a certain day, they will show up on that day and work with someone else. And
Mm.
it's straight commission sales. So if you don't sell,
Oh.
you don't make money, right?
Oof.
Yeah. So you have an unhealthy competition, and then you suffer the inhumane policies like think about working 10 hours a day on a Saturday with only a 30-minute lunch,
Oh, wow.
right? And one place they stopped providing us water because they thought that $380 a month for water was too much. They told us
That's
to,
inhumane.
yes, exactly. They told us to drink the fountain water, and they're not drinking it, right? So I had to provide water for my customers who would sometimes spend hours as we were working on their project. So you're always dehydrated. Then
Wow.
they forget that the doors only stay open because of the sales team, right? They
Mhm. Mhm.
treat the sales team like as if we are the bottom of the barrel when we're the ones that's making it possible for them to have these crazy exorbitant salaries. I mean, you have district managers making like 375,000 a year doing what?
And can't
Nothing
even
that
provide
you
water.
can do.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
pure exploitation. I see, you know
right.
what, let me tell you something. Out of all the guests I've ever had, you're the first person I've ever met, Black woman on my channel, who talked about this industry. So that's why it's so
Yes,
amazing to have these
yes.
conversations because it's everywhere. It's every job.
Yes, yes. And yes, I want to talk about it because I know I'm representing a large segment of us that are in retail.
Wow.
They rob us legally, right? The commission structure is designed for us to work like mules and pick their cotton and fill their baskets, and they get richer and richer, and
Mm.
they pay us a measly percentage of what we sell. And If you sell too much, they drop the percentage of the commission that they pay you. Yes,
What?
make it make sense.
Oh,
Listen, let me
it's a
give you an
lose. It's a
example.
lose all the way around.
Let me tell you. Let's say you they give you a quota of 70,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you maybe get 6% on that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I have to sell a certain amount to begin to make commission in the first place.
Hmm.
So let's say I sell, and I'm using crude numbers as examples, but for the general principle, let's say my minimum to make commission is 70,000. If I sell less than that, I don't make commission, right? I might make an hourly of $11 to $15 an hour. So where does the 69.9 go? Where does that go? But say I sell 70,000 and you give me 5 or 6%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I sell up to 100,000, you give me 77%. I sell up to 150, you give me 8%. Wouldn't it stand to reason then that if I sold over the 150, my commission would increase? No. Whatever you sell over the 150 goes back down to like 3%.
Oh my God.
It's immoral.
That's crazy making.
How do you justify that with a clear conscience?
It's like a yo-yo. Like you're like pulling people back and forth. Oh my God.
Let me tell you. So you set me a quota and I exceed it and you penalize me for exceeding that quota. And let me tell you how I feel about quotas. It's like putting me in the middle of the floor in the big house and ordering me to dance for your evening entertainment.
Ooh.
And then if I don't that's how I feel about quotas.
Ooh.
You just put me out there and tell me to dance. Mm-hmm.
Tap dance. It reminds me of James Ball when he says, "I'm not your Negro."
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Your Negro.
And then they want to stand around and watch you as you work with the customers. And some of them watch you at the last job I had in retail. They watch you on camera, right? And then you think that because they want you to sell so much that they would let you just sell. But no, they want you to fluff pillows and straighten lampshades and tag. And then you tag, and then you have to untag, and then you have to retag every damn weekend so that, customers believe that they're getting a deal. Listen, it's so much. I could go on for days. I've been meaning to write a book about retail furniture life. It sounds glamorous, the title of designer. You get to work with fabrics and colors and patterns and textiles and finishes to help create beautiful spaces for the appreciative customers. But those long hours and dealing with the the other set of customers, the crazy one, it's crazy. And furniture customers are notorious for canceling orders. So you can spend time working with a customer, sometimes weeks, and they'll just cancel, right?
Wow.
Yes, not to mention, most places you don't get paid until the furniture is delivered.
Oh my gosh, that could be forever.
Yes. So you could be waiting for months to be paid on furniture that you sold. That one guy told me he was waiting for like 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
Because the customer was building the house himself and didn't take. So the management and politics create a terribly oppressive environment, which can cancel out the joy of the creative outlet as a designer. And the lure is this, though. Although they're robbing you, there are times when you make what looks like great money, right? In the business. One time I worked for a design studio, which is just a fancy name for a high-end furniture store, where they had like $52,000 sofas, $30,000 rugs, and $20,000 parts. Yes. So yes, I was making good money, it looked like, on the surface, but the craziness. So yeah, so I was screaming to get free, and the screaming became much louder and more urgent at the job that I had before COVID. So when I got laid off from COVID, I decided I just couldn't go back to working like that anymore. I decided to go for outside sales, where I wouldn't have anybody breathing down my neck, and I was not stuck in a building, and I could take breaks in my car. But I found out too that wasn't it. I really wanted to work remote, and preferably from anywhere in the world. So yeah, I did get to a place where I completely was over the hustling and hustling so hard and made I made some changes.
Yeah, so I see in the chat people are saying thank you for sharing this information. We had no idea. It's like
Yes,
taking a curtain and you like expose this
exactly.
whole industry. So you got to a point, and I love what you said. You said, I never wanted to work for other people, right? And it made
Never
me think
did.
about Stephanie Perry, who said, I don't dream of labor. Okay. There's things I want to do, but I don't dream of working for somebody else. So
No.
you were clear about that. And so you said that you started noticing there were things that were happening in the workplace and it was impacting you. So can you
Yes.
talk a little bit more about how that work experience was impacting you outside of the work environment? How
Yes, 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 absolutely. I was losing myself. I lost myself working like that, right? I didn't have energy or time to focus on me.
Mm,
And when you exist in conditions like that long enough, you lose sight of your real dreams.
true.
So I couldn't see farther than getting through the day and that on the job that was killing me anyway. All I could do was get through each day, and there was
Mm-hmm.
no energy left for me. Well,
Mm,
yeah, I forgot who I was while working like crazy like that, like a machine on autopilot. It was only in between jobs that I could dream and spend a little time with myself. Yeah, I had
mm.
lost myself.
Ooh, so losing yourself, you felt drained. So how did that connect you to visualization? How did visualization come into your life, especially during that time?
Oh my gosh, I got a lot to say about this. I have too many stories I could tell about how visualization worked for me, even when I didn't have the language or understood what I was doing. But I did know this. I was aware that I had certain powers, right? And I know we don't like to admit that we have powers because we may sound strange to others, but it is what it is. We are powerful beings,
Mhm,
period.
mhm, mhm,
So I've been visualizing since I was a little girl. I always had my notebook and pen writing out prayers and things that I wanted, and they would come true.
mm,
Then, through various traumas and societal conditioning, you forget that you could imagine and put your focus on things and they could happen. Okay,
mhm,
so after COVID, I saw myself in outside sales. I wrote down what I wanted in a job and I went for it.
mm,
I was also looking at business opportunities, but I hadn't come up with anything that felt true to me yet. So I applied for a position at one company,
mhm.
got turned down. And then 2 weeks later, the same company advertised another position in healthcare, right? And I
Mm.
said, I didn't care if I got the same manager that turned me down before. I'm applying for this job.
Okay.
So I applied for the job and I got it.
Okay.
I was visualizing myself in outside sales. I had no
Okay.
experience in healthcare, but I got the job and became the number one salesperson.
Mm. Well, can I say
Visualization.
something, Winston? I just want to highlight something. What
Yes.
you're sharing right now is an example of transferable skills. That's something we talk about in the summit. Is that sometimes we think that we're pigeonholed into a particular job and we can't leave that particular job. But what you're sharing right now are transferable skills. We all have
Yes.
transferable skills. So
That's
for us to
right.
remember that. So in the summit, we talk about a lot about that. I'm sorry, I had to highlight that.
Yeah, that's a good point, though. That's a good point. So I have all this experience in sales. And even though I was in furniture sales as a designer, I could take that skill and sell anything else.
Yes.
So I was able to transfer my sales skill to the healthcare industry. Yeah. So
Fabulous.
visualization worked for me, and I even when I wasn't consciously practicing it yet. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for Black women watching this right now, can you share ways that visualization is similar or different than prayer?
That is such a good question, Dr. K. That is such a good question, right? And actually, I've been meaning to address this on my channel too. I don't know that there's much difference in visualization and prayer, right? Maybe the biggest distinction could be that, and this is just me speaking,
Mhm.
visualization In visualization, you are drawing on internal power as a co-creator with the universe,
Okay.
or God, if you prefer. You tap into your innate ability to create your reality with visualization. But like prayer, it does require the ability to believe that what you're envisioning is yours. Okay. So with prayer, though, you call upon an external power,
Mm-hmm.
right? You ask God to do things for you and you assume that God does everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? That God does all the work and you just benefit from God calling the shots. But prayer also requires you to believe, right? What they call faith. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say simply visualization is internal focus, right? Where you're using your innate ability to co-create.
Okay.
And prayer is an external focus where you are seeking from an external deity to provide for you.
Okay. Can they coexist? Can you do prayer and visualization?
Yes, I encourage prayer and visualization. I do. I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And what about if there's a Black woman washing and her religious faith says something like, this doesn't sound like it's along with the religion and this is going outside of the religion? What would you say to her?
Get that all the time. I appreciate these questions. I really do. Yeah, I remember several years ago, one of my little sisters asked me if I thought it was okay for Christians to meditate. And I said, meditate is highly encouraged all throughout the Bible. Prayer is meditation. See, here's the thing. As a little girl, the way I would visualize was through writing out my prayers. That's visualization. And visualization and meditation are highly encouraged and supported in the Bible. For example, in Habakkuk, scripture says, write the vision and make it plain. That's one of the principles of visualization right there, right? If you feel like your Christianity is against it, it's right there in the Bible. Proverbs 28:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I'm here to tell you, things were a mess for me before I truly consciously started practicing visualization. Visualization is supported in the Bible. There are so many instances of visualization in the Bible. In Genesis, I remember in Genesis, God inviting Abraham to visualize a promise. God said, look up in the sky and count the stars. Okay? So shall your offspring be. God was telling him, if you can see it, so shall it be. Right? He was telling him to visualize your offspring as numerous as the stars in the sky. Right? One of the techniques in visualization is speaking things into existence, which is a well-known Bible scripture. Right? Call those things that are not as though they were. And if you believe in the story of creation, God spoke creation. God said, let there be light. The spoken word, Nomo, which is Nommo, according to the Dogon people of West Africa, the spoken word creates reality. We create things by speaking them into reality. When you're praying and praying aloud and asking for things, you have an image of what you're asking for in your mind, don't you? Yes. So how is that different from visualization? Except you use certain principles and techniques that prayer doesn't necessarily include. Okay? But even in Christianity, I remember back in church, they used to teach you how to pray. Okay? They used to teach you how to pray. Likewise, you can learn how to practice visualization effectively. So, I would encourage you to use visualization along with prayer if that's where you are. And here's the thing, women who are afraid of visualization. Visualization is one of the ancient spiritual practices of our ancestors that they used before colonization. and before our spiritual practices were taken from us and replaced with modern religion. This is how our ancestors created things: immense structures and prosperous kingdoms. These are truths that our ancestors know. And I didn't say theories, I said truths. They are true. They knew the secrets of the universe and understood how to work with the elements to create things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a video on my channel titled Before We Were Black. I would encourage you to watch that video. Before we
Were black. Break down what that video is about, please. What is that video
we
about?
were before they started telling us that we were black. We never saw ourselves as black. We were not a black race. Colonization is what told us we were black so that they could dominate us and create hierarchy and white supremacy. So what were we before we were black? We were some spiritual people, right? Living in kingdoms, creating vast things. We were healers and builders and teachers. Yeah. Before they told us.
Really, like, how do we remember our true history, where we really came from? Because when we think about colonization and enslavement, all the white supremacy, it's really to strip us of our true history.
That's
and
it.
to really think of us in terms of that social hierarchy. So
That's
really knowing
it.
our true value, our true history.
That's exactly it. And along with that, they took our spiritual practices from us. So now, and they gave us their religion and their God and taught us how we should worship and how we should live. And so we became afraid. We learned to become afraid of the spiritual practices of our ancestors, like visualization and manifestation. By the way, the same practices that they beat and killed us for are the same practices that now science is supporting as facts. Okay. You do not have to be afraid of meditation and visualization. It is part of your DNA to understand and practice these skills.
Yes. So I'm wondering right now, kind of as we started, mentioning just the chaos and confusion going on right now.
Yes.
In what ways can visualization really help us right now with all this chaos and confusion?
Yes. And visualization is not just a luxury. It is a necessity for us right now, right? It is indeed a necessity. I've been saying that this time the revolution is spiritual. This time the revolution will be spiritual, okay? Only by going inward and tapping into the depths of the truths of who we are can we sustain the chaos that's going on. We were not built for this kind of turmoil. We are spiritual people. We can only fight this progression of hostility and unrest by going inward. So that even with all the noise, we can access peace and quiet to summon up the strength and resilience that's needed for these times. We're going to have to learn to fight back spiritually, using some of those ancient teachings that our ancestors used to dominate enemies in warfare, your rituals, your gatherings, your practices like chanting and visioning. We've got to build up our inner man so that what's happening externally does not destroy our sacredness. We have to learn to survive in a different way by reclaiming our ancestral spiritual roots.
Wow. That is powerful. You said the revolution would be spiritual.
It'll be spiritual.
Wow.
Catch the vision, people. Catch the vision.
Wow.
Ooh.
Wow.
Yes.
That is so powerful. So in what ways do you think that visualization can help Black women? Because you talked about your own experiences. How can visualization help Black women envision a different life for herself outside of a toxic job, or outside of a situation where she might be fearful of, oh my God, I just lost my job. What am I going to do? How can visualization help her?
Let's see. Okay. So you want in the clinic, I teach about connecting with your future self. We do a little working on your past self, right? and then we do some work working on your future self. A lot of visualization, people don't know this. They think it's all just hocus pocus and stuff, but a lot of visualization is actually self work, right? Because I don't know if you're familiar with the saying that goes, the universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you who you are. So,
Wow.
yes, so you do have to do a lot of self work when you're practicing visualization. For me, it's like when I started really practicing visualization, it felt like a coming home to myself.
Mm.
I began to really become integrated with who I really was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. So I do encourage women, you know, we we don't want to do inner work. We think it's hard. Just tell us about the money. Just show me the money. Tell me how to get the money. Tell me how to, you know, live the life and everything. But a lot of that is predicated on what you're doing with your internal person.
Mm.
Okay.
That's important. That's important.
Mhm.
And, you know, I think that it's important for us as Black women, particularly during this time, to know we do have power and we do have agency. Because a lot of us are feeling so scared about what's happening that we'll kind of just stay put. And we're so distracted by all this craziness going on. It's
You're
hard to
right.
move in and envision
Right.
what the life we want for ourselves.
Yeah, if you want for yourself. So when somebody comes up and starts talking about visualization, you may just not even give it two minds, but that's really kind of what's going to save you. That's what's going to help you. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay. So you made reference to your clinic. Can you talk about your clinic?
Oh, yes. So the clinic is three parts, right? There is clinic one, and then there's clinic two and clinic three.
Mhm.
But you want to do clinic one before you do clinic two, because clinic two and three, they get really kind of deep, right? Um, they get deep. Two goes on to digging into you meeting your highest self, and three gets kind of scientific, right? So it's 3.5 hours. The next one is on the 20th. That is this Sunday, right? Um, what else do I want to say about the
So
clinic?
you have a clinic coming up this Sunday?
Yes, I do have one coming up this Sunday.
Okay.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, so tell us more about the clinic this Sunday.
So okay, so you get the fun with clinic one. You get, it's called the We Are Creators Visualization Clinic. So it's the first part, and it's the foundations, the fundamentals before you go deeper to two and three, right? So it's called a clinic because it's really interactive and it's really deep, transformative work, right? One of the opening segments of the clinic is the We Are Creators initiation ceremony, where participants are guided to step into their role as co-creator with the universe, right? We have a ceremony for that, so that you begin to feel yourself embody that co-creator identity. Um, and then there's some rituals that we practice, right? There are some blockages that do hinder successful visualization and manifestation. So we spend some time clearing those. They are real. Trauma, conditioning, all that kind of stuff can block visualization and manifestation. Um, and it's a lot packed into 3.5 hours, and the feedback from past participants is like phenomenal. There was one sister who, she heard me talk on another show, and she felt the tugging and she wanted to come, but she was scared. She was scared, but she came. She trusted the tugging and she came, and she was the person that got the biggest breakthrough. And to use her words, That was earthquake evolution for her. It it's powerful stuff. I'm telling you. If you sign up, you'll get a prep list of things that you need to gather to come to the clinic with, like a candle, a bowl of water, drinking water. And if you come, you'll never drink water the same again. Okay? When you learn that drinking water is a sacred act, and when you learn that dehydration can hinder visualization. Yes. And so when
Can you elaborate on that? I'm really curious. Now I have my water. So how can dehydration?
Girl, let me tell you, I'm not gonna go into it here. Come to the clinic and find out.
Oh my God, that's deep.
I go into the science of it. I go into the science of it, girl, and it's scientific and proven how water affects your electromagnetic field.
Ooh.
And helps build up your frequency so that you can attract more. Oh, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I encourage people to say their affirmations, I say drink some water and say your affirmations, right? Yeah. And I'll say this too about the clinic. It does get a little woo-woo, but you do need some woo-woo in your life. You do, because there's nothing to be afraid of. Woo-woo is where your spirit guides live, the angels and stuff, if you believe in that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's just the spiritual realm that's not accessed in everyday life. It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. And who are the ideal people to register for the visualization clinic? Who is it for?
You know what? Anyone who is seeking, anyone who is trying to connect with their real self, trying to get to know themselves, anyone who feels like they are kind of lost in life and just are off track, don't have clear direction, right? Anyone who has trouble setting goals and reaching them, anyone who, one of the things I ask people before they come to the clinic is write down 10 of your dreams. Do you know a lot of people don't get past 3 or 4 dreams?
Oh,
we are not even in touch and aware of our dreams.
Wow. So that's an example. That's true oppression. When they steal not only our health and our labor and our joy and our rest, but when they steal our dreams, our ability to dream. Oh, wow.
We forget that we can dream. We feel like we're not worthy of our dreams. It's sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. So I'll put on the screen here how to register for the visualization clinic.
Yes.
Everybody is also in the description section. So Winsome, in addition to the visualization clinic, can you please share with the audience what are the other resources and services that you have to offer?
Now, okay, so we have the clinic, right? That is designed to be in a group setting, but I do also provide one-on-ones, right? And if you have a specific request, although to do one-on-ones, I highly recommend that you do the introductory clinic first, okay? So yes, so beyond that, there are one-on-ones that I will do with people. Now, to practice visualization requires a certain level of connection with your sacred self. There is a quiz that I provide to help you gauge your connection, right? So it's a 7-question quiz. It's free. You take the quiz and it'll tell you there's a score. You get a score and it tells you how connected you are. And then if you need more than that, then you can follow the prompts and maybe come to the clinic.
Okay. So everybody, the quiz is also in the description section of this video. And I see somebody said, definitely need some woo-woo.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes. And remind us also, I put your YouTube channel here again. So remind us of what your YouTube channel focuses on, Winsome.
Okay, so the channel is Big up yourself. And again, that's all about doing the work, the self work. It's about recognizing your value, about celebrating yourself, about reconnecting with your sacred self. It's all about you becoming your best self, your highest self, catching up. And I don't say returning, I say catching up to the original you that was created for all the great things before you got sidetracked by trauma.
Ah,
I don't say return because that person was always there. That person was always still excelling and ascending. So now you are catching up to that person. That's
I like
basically what
that.
this channel is about.
Catching up. Okay,
Yes.
okay. So Winsome, I've been reading the chat, I've been keeping up as we've been going along. People have been liking your comments. A lot of mic drops you've been sharing also. So Winsome, as we're winding down, any last words you want to share with the community here?
Yeah. Let's see. Um, where do I start? Let me just think. Let me talk about some mindset blocks that showed up when I tried to envision something better for myself. And like,
Okay.
when you're trying to envision something for yourself, religious conditioning
Mm,
can hold you back. Fear of yourself can hold you back. Fear of the future and doubt. I used to be so afraid of the future. I was obsessed with the future, right? I
mm,
wanted to know what was going to happen, just fearful that I wasn't going to be okay. And then I learned that the best way to predict the future is to create it.
mhm,
So, yeah. So I learned that there is a word too for fear of it was a real phobia I had, chronophobia.
mm.
So then I accepted that I was co-creator with the universe of my future. So you can accept that you are co-creator with the universe.
Mhm.
Um, and it took me a while to get past my Christian training, believing everything was in God's hand. And then also I was living in a state of lack and scarcity, afraid of my dreams, afraid of my own power, but I learned to live an abundance lifestyle. I live an abundance lifestyle. Okay, so I don't visualize from lack and scarcity anymore, but from a place of gratitude and abundance. And
Wow.
not because you don't have everything that you desire right here in front of you in your hands right now, does it mean that abundance doesn't exist? Abundance is all around. This here, this evening, I rate this as abundance. I learn from you, you learn from me. We do
Yes.
together.
Yes,
Yes,
and we're pouring into one another. And you also
exactly.
said something that I really want to see if you could elaborate a little bit. You said fear of yourself and fear of your own power. How might
Yes.
that look for Black women?
Yeah, you know that popular saying that our deepest fear is not, what is it? Our deepest fear is not, I forgot what it is, but our fear is of ourselves.
Hmm.
There was a time when I was publishing a magazine for trauma survivors, and I was so scared.
Hmm.
There was so much nerves because I could see the vision that this magazine could be worldwide, it could be international, and it could really free some people. But I was so afraid of what
Hmm.
I had to offer that I just sabotaged it and killed it.
Wow.
You know,
Wow. Wow.
um, what is that term when you feel like you're a fraud that they use?
Imposter syndrome?
Correct,
Uh-huh.
correct.
Uh-huh.
Yes, yes. That's how it can show up.
Okay, okay. So for us to connect to the power we have, and when we have that fear, to really explore that so we don't sabotage things.
Correct, 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 correct. That's
Okay.
why this self work and internal work is so vital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. We run to the resources and stuff that teach us how to get the money, but we forget about this here. And in the end, this is all that really matters. Who you
True.
are in here, your
True.
spirit.
True. Okay, okay. Well, everybody, again, I have Winston's information, her YouTube channel. I have information about here's her YouTube channel here. So go to her YouTube channel, check it out, subscribe. And then I also have information about her visualization clinic, which is this Sunday, right, Winsome?
Yes.
What
Yes.
time is it?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay, so
Mhm.
3 o'clock. And this is the quote. Marissa's so dope. This is the quote that you were looking for.
Yes.
It's not that we are inadequate,
That's
but
it.
that we are powerful beyond measure.
That's
Yes,
it. That's
yes,
what
yes,
we're afraid of. That's it. That's what we're afraid of. Oh my God.
yes, 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 yes. So allowing ourselves, daring to dream and know we have options. We have the options to pivot. And we're talking about ways that visualization might be one of those ways that can help us as Black women pivot. So
Yeah.
recognize the power we have within. Also, there's things around us who try to tell us that we don't have power, but we
Right.
have our power, right? And I want to quote Bell Hooks, where she said that sometimes we question if people don't see our worth or our power, but they in fact see our power and they're
Yes.
intimidated by it. So
Yes.
they see it, but they try to extinguish it. So for us
Yes.
women to know we have power, we have the power to pivot, which is the theme of the summit. So again, there's so much power within us, but sometimes we might need that support to
Yes.
pivot, right? So you're
That's
talking about
exactly right.
options of visualization. I also talked about the virtual summit, which is coming up May 16th and 18th, which gives Black women the resources, the tools of how to effectively pivot from a job that maybe doesn't serve you anymore, maybe a job that's toxic, or if you've recently been laid off. There are different ways for us to pivot as Black women, and we really want you as Black women, for us to to reconnect, right? To reconnect
Yeah.
to our power, to our power.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
everyone, check out all the resources that I have available for you, that Winsome has for available for you. There's so many things to support us as we're lifting, as we climb. Okay, so
Yes.
we not have made it to the mountaintop, but we are moving along. And remember, as Winsome said, this is a spiritual revolution. Spiritual revolution. We have to do all that we can to preserve our sanity and
Yes.
our spirituality right now, because there's so much chaos and confusion that keeps you distracted from yourself, because you're like, what should we worry about now? What's
Yes.
going right now? So it's
Yes.
important for us to go within, because
Mm-hmm.
that is how we will survive. Not only survive, but we will thrive. We will
That's
thrive,
it.
okay?
That's it.
But we
That's
have to be
it.
very intentional about what we're doing right now. So
Yes.
everyone, thank you so much for watching. Check out all the resources that I share with you. Give this video a thumbs up, because it lets YouTube know to suggest this video to other Black women. Subscribe to Winsome's channel. Subscribe to my channel. It's free, okay? Subscribe is free. And
Yes.
share this video with other Black women, okay? So thank you, everyone, for watching. Winsome, if you could stay on. And I will
Sure.
see you guys later. Take care, everyone.
Yes. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.